We agree.
Now, Iggy, to get on to things, the new album, it's your 12th studio album,
Yeah.
and you've said that it's the culmination of everything you've ever done in the past. Now, are you saying that, you know, this is the peak of your career as a rock and roller? Is this the best of Iggy Pop over...
No, I think I was probably just saying it was the first, it was the first album I made all by myself where I was sober enough so I could remember everything else I'd done. And I sort of, oh God, I used to like that bit on that record, and you know, I don't know, I just, I felt very in control of it. It all came from me playing my guitar, which is basically what I've always done. That's where all the Stooges stuff came from too. It's basically me sitting with a cheap guitar in a room thinking up all this stuff, you know, and then I'll have this drummer that plays like this, and we'll have these big flags on stage, and I'll do this and that, but what it really comes from, basically, it's one guy sitting with a guitar writing stuff.
Well, looking back on it, what do you think about the lifestyle that you led when it was Iggy and the Stooges?
Terrific. I don't regret any of the, obviously there were mistakes, and there was, you know, as I've outlined myself in book form, in the book I wrote, I Need More, there was filth and degradation, you know, all those things. But that's all part of life. Anyway, it's all part of most people's lives. It's just not as recognized often.
Well, a lot of people are quite surprised that after 20 years of leading the ultimate rock and roll lifestyle, you're still performing. How do you feel about it?
I'm happy about it, put it that way. I'm real happy about it. And I don't think, had I tried to imagine 10 or 12 years ago that I would be, that at this date, in the late 80s, that I'd be as disciplined as I am, or as focused as I am on my work, as opposed to the attendant fun bits or whatever, you know, the entertainment bits. I wouldn't have thought I could. I would have, in the late 70s, I was really convinced that I lived for, that it was really important to me to have lots of heavy sex, lots of heavy dope, lots of casual sort of hero worship in the streets, all that garbage. That had become, that was really coming in and threatening my work. It was hurting my work. And what I found out when that stuff that was tripping me up eventually took its toll on me, and when I was really down to the crunch, and I could have gone either way. I could have gone, well, let's just get one big hit of stuff and trip on out of here, or let's get our shit together and get the work going. I realized how much my work meant to me. I remembered again this sort of, that there was one thing that felt pure to me, and that was my desire to do really good at this. And so then I started looking, you know, I didn't think like, oh, and so now I'm going to be nice and innocent, and these are good things and these are bad things. I just looked pragmatically. I looked, well, what would help me do good work, and what would get in my way? And whatever's going to get the fuck in my way is going to get the fuck out of my way, and I don't want to know about it. Simple as that. So I had to conquer a lot of my own appetites, you know, and like I still, you know, I still recognize, you know, I recognize the need to have a kick, and I'm not like, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and tell you that I never get stoned, that I never have a drink, or that I never have casual sex. But I think these things have to be put in perspective. I think at the end of the day, where they belong.
Ever since you shared the same management company back in the early 70s with David Bowie, your careers have been closely followed, you know, in terms of their parallels. But it looks as though now Iggy Pop is soaring up, and David Bowie of recent is particularly going down. I mean, how do you feel about David Bowie's performances now?
Musically, I find him deft, but not always swinging, but when it swings, it really swings. Depends on which stuff you're talking about. In other words, I prefer the song Station to Station to the song Starman. I've always liked him more for his lyrics than any other aspect of what he's done. That's my personal assessment. As far as getting into who's doing what or which, I'm very hungry right now. I really want to do good work. That's all that matters to me. I could give a shit about anything else. So perhaps if I'm doing well vis-a-vis anyone else, it might be because I wanted a little more. I did a 97 gig tour in support of blah blah blah, and the day I ended that tour, I started work on this album. And I ain't even saying this album ain't the greatest thing since sliced bread, but it's the best I could do. It's the fucking best I could do. I gave up cigarettes for it. I put my ass on the line and wrote it with my own guitar. I'm not a very good, I don't know a lot of chords. I even had to be clear and gain enough clarity to learn how to operate a recording machine so I could express myself. And learn a drum machine, everything that I'd always hated. That's techno, fuck that. I want just find the moment, get stoned and find the moment. I gave all that up, because I really want it bad. So maybe I want it right now a little more than he does.
What's your reward?
That's very possible because he's had the accolades, and maybe I haven't.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do understand. What's your reward then?
When people like it.
It's not.
And especially when I like it, when I can feel it getting a little better. Like I had a reward just yesterday, because we were rehearsing for this Wired show, and it was the first time I've heard. I've got a new touring band. And I've worked really hard on this band, and it was the first time I'd heard us play in a room that was big enough and dead enough so we could turn everything up all the way, but you could still hear everything with crystal clarity. And I thought, man, we're getting good. And I could hear how much better we'd gotten than when we started rehearsing for this tour. So that made me feel hopeful, like it made me feel like the work that I put into this actually can add up to something. Because haven't you ever had the feeling, sometimes you're working along at something, you get home and you think, oh fuck, I don't think this work is adding up to anything, or I'm not sure. I've gone through a lot of that. So just to feel like I'm getting somewhere, that is a good reward. I have a God-given love of music and will to play it, but not a big talent like, oh, and then I'll just go over here to the synthesizer and go blah, 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 and that'll be another 10 million records. And, I'm not one of those sort of, hey, how's Quake? I can't do that. Sort of, shit, sell a lot of that. I can't do that. So it's good for me in a way, because I really like playing, but it takes me a lot of effort to get something out.
After 20 years in the business, how do you see rock and roll has changed, and how do you see it now?
It's become a lot safer now, especially for the people that want to get involved in it. It's a lot easier proposition to go out and buy a synthesizer and then go hang out and have dinner with people who can help you in the biz, and sort of go through the right records and write down the right catchphrases, buzzwords, a couple chords, and you might have yourself a hit. Kind of. Whereas when I was contemplating it as a life, the only people who did rock and roll were either pill popping hillbilly greasers from, who played at the local bar and were going down fast, or you read about them in the paper marrying their 12-year-old cousin or whatever, or it was Englishmen from Mars. It was the Beatles, the Kinks, the Stones, and they might as well have been from Mars. So it was considered, a lot of people felt bad for me when I went into this, and they thought, oh, he was, I was a really nice young guy. He was articulate. He could have been somebody.